Alright, welcome back to another video of Davian's collection of VHS, DVDs, games, and more. Today I'm going to be doing my September 2022 Nickelodeon DVD collection. I now have 25 DVDs in my collection. And the newest arrival is SpongeBob SquarePants and Nautical Nonsense and Sponge Buddies. It's going to be freaking epic. Now let's get on to the video. Starting off is SpongeBob SquarePants and Nautical Nonsense and Sponge Buddies. It works totally fine, even though on most DVD players, when it reaches to something smells, it started to mess up right here. The same issue goes to my PlayStation, but otherwise the DVD works. Next up is Dora the Explorer and Meet Diego. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Oswald, Welcome to Big City. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. It's my first ever Nick Jr. DVD. In Indiana, though. Next up is Nicktoons Halloween, the Nickelodeon compilation DVD that features SpongeBob SquarePants, Rugrats, Rocket Power, Hey Arnold, and the Fairly Odd Parents. This DVD in hands works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. That's the case that was originally from SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge for Hire that I no longer have. Because it doesn't work right here. Next up is Blues Room and Snack Time Playdate. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Blues Room, It's Hug Day. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is SpongeBob SquarePants and Absorbing Favorites. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Nick Picks Holiday featuring SpongeBob SquarePants, All Grown Up, The Fairly Odd Parents, Rugrats, Danny Phantom, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and Chalk Zone. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. And it's my first Nick Picks DVD. Next up is SpongeBob SquarePants To Love a Patty. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever, and it has this instruction thing, not the instruction thing, it's the booklet. Features Atlantis SquarePants, Bikini Bottom Adventures, Friend or Foe, and these two complete season box sets right here. And this game's available on PS2, Wii, Nintendo DS, and Game Boy Advance. SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants. It's gonna be my future PS2 game to add to my collection. So if I get the next PS2 game, stay tuned for the future collection. Next up is Go Diego Go and Diego's Magical Missions. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Go Diego Go in the Great Dinosaur Rescue Special Edition. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Yo Gabba Gabba New Friends. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. I transferred a case from my old Curious George DVDs on that one, along with Blues Room Snack Time Playdate. Next up is Wow Wow Wubbzy and Wubbzy's Egg Selling Easter. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is SpongeBob SquarePants and 10 Happiest Moments. Works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Yo Gabba Gabba, Let's Visit the Doctor. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. And I heard a snap right here on the case right here. Might be getting a new case soon. Next up is Dora the Explorer and Dora's Butterfly Ball. That works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. I do need a new case though, if my Curious George DVDs don't stop working right here. And it's refusing to close a little bit. Next up is the Charlotte's Web double feature. I consider this a Nickelodeon DVD because it has the 2006 Charlotte's Web movie in it. Here's the first one, released in the 2000s. And here's the 2006 one released in 2007 on DVD. Both of the discs work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is SpongeBob SquarePants. And this movie here, it's the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. My favorite part is where Mr. Krabs says to Plankton, "Jimmy, bag my formula." This DVD works totally fine, even though it has trailer issues. Next up is SpongeBob SquarePants, The Adventures of SpongeBob SquarePants. Yeah, that DVD player's having a little bit of issues. It works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is Blue's Clues Get Clued into School Pack, featuring these 3 titles: Alphabet Power, Blue Takes to School, and Shapes and Colors. That one here is the Blues Room title right here. And all 3 discs work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is my favorite movie, Good Burger, that I got New Year's Day. And it works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next year, it will be 4 years old. Next up is the SpongeBob SquarePants first and second season box sets. They all work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is the Blue's Clues Big Hits Volume 1. And it includes an extra DVD that I never had before back then: Blue Stock and Blues Big Band. All DVDs work totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Next up is the Blue's Clues Volume 2 Big Hits, featuring more DVDs right here. We got Shapes and Colors, Blue Takes It to School, Classic Clues, Blue's Biggest Stories, and Alphabet Power. All the DVDs work totally fine, even though Blue Takes It to School is loud. And last but not least is Blue's Clues and You and Blue's Sing-Along Spectacular. That works totally fine with no issues whatsoever. Right here. Now that's going to do me with my September 2022 Nickelodeon DVD Collection. This is Davian's collection of VHS DVDs, games, and more. Thank you for watching. I hope you like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you again in my next video.